So I know, like, thanks for filling out the survey. I know you guys said we've been talking for a while about how you guys tell me, the tax bill is really just getting up there. So is that kind of like the primary motivation for wanting to do this? Just like save on taxes?
That's one. Also, we'd like to make money for retirement.
Yeah. Well, one of the good things, I mean, at least you have a pension, so, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever like just sat down and ran the numbers on basically, what a comfortable retirement would necessitate, what you guys expect to get, and then like kind of figure out how to do something for the difference or
Not really.
no? Okay. So just ballpark, like say I know you have two young boys. And if they start families of their own, like, would you want to be able to help them out with grandkids or like, their families or anything like, would you want a little bit of extra buffer or added into your retirement income for that?
I mean, I'd like to leave them what we have left.
Okay. Well, I mean, sure, but beyond that, right? Like say if they
So
have,
one of the things that worries me with Noah is his medications. He needs medication for the rest of his life. He
sure.
needs his Dexcom sensors. He needs his Omnipods. Like
Yeah.
he's going to have significant medical expenses the rest of his life, and I want to make sure that he's never in a position that he's choosing between his insulin and his mortgage or his insulin and food.
Yeah.
I that
And,
terrifies.
that's funny you say that because, I mean, you both know my wife. And she works in diabetes education. So she tells me how many times it's like how kids are allowed to stay on their parents if they're in school or something like that. But there's a big gap. Whenever they go off, they see the right increase in the number of deaths of young people just because they can't access insulin. So yeah, it's really scary. And I mean, insulin's not cheap. It's expensive, right? Even with copays.
Yeah.
I have I'm building him a little stockpile, planning for the future for when that happens.
Yeah. And I mean, so obviously, like, he comes from a good family. You guys are both pretty accomplished. He's going into a career field. Is he still looking to do PA, like physician's assistant?
He actually just changed his major again. He wasn't as excited about it, so
Okay.
I'm more happy for him now. Because whenever he was talking about doing med school, it was more about the money. Like he was
Okay.
excited to make a decent amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just like he had one rough semester after another, and he's like, this isn't fun. Like I'm not enjoying myself. So he actually changed to geology, which
Okay.
is something that he's much more intrinsically interested in.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think he like at this point he's looking to graduate next year, next May,
Okay.
and with a BS in geology, and then possibly looking to go change that or go for engineering, geology engineering, or something of that sort.
Got you.
Um,
Got you. Okay. So I mean, like,
but he'll
that's
still be
good.
very successful.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's a shame, like this day and age, even in America, how you could have a good job, but you could still go bankrupt because of your health insurance problems or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, we always want to set our kids up for success. So, one of the like a potential new client that I'm working with, they had said about how, like he's a high level executive at a publicly traded company. The wife's, a successful small business owner herself, but they're still worried about in terms of like the kids' future because they have college age kids. So anyway, like if we put hard numbers on it, um I think your camera might be up a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't see
Sorry.
you guys.
Yeah. I
Okay.
apologize.
It's okay.
And
So say if we put just like um a retirement monthly or yearly income where it's like comfortable, where if you need to at least from on and off help the kids out, make sure your expenses are covered. Is there like a number that comes to mind? that you would need to be comfortable in retirement?
I'm not sure. I don't think that we've looked at it at this point. I
Okay.
mean, we have our retirement and everything, and I guess we haven't any though, I have a BS in finance. I
Sure.
have lived in that world in quite some time.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we never, at that time that we were, it wasn't at the foremost of my mind.
Yeah.
We never really sat down and was like, we're going to need $7,000 per month.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's what we use now. I mean, we would truly need to stay about what we're at to continue our lifestyle. I guess our mortgage payment, we wouldn't have a mortgage payment at that point. So there's a
Sure.
$1,000 less. But otherwise,
I see. Okay. So like,
probably
what?
about 7,000 a month would be what makes us comfortable.
Okay. 7,000 a month. Okay. Okay. So you have 7,000 coming in, but then do we need to adjust it down to 1,000 to 6,000 because you don't have a mortgage, or would it be better just to have that extra 1,000 in there then?
Oh, that was taking the mortgage out.
Okay. So 7,000 a month would be now, is that gross or net? Like, is that what you need to pay for expenses, or are we talking like top line or bottom line?
That's vacations, going out to eat,
Okay.
buying stuff when we want to buy it.
Okay. But I mean, what I'm saying is, do you need like, is that cash? Like, do you need that? Like, so are you counting your paycheck before everything gets taken out or after everything gets taken out?
Oh, that's before.
Okay. So if you had 7,000 gross, even taking stuff out of it, like your taxes, withholdings, then you'd be comfortable. That's what you're saying, right?
Is that what you're saying? I didn't know that we were spending that much money per month. That's crazy.
Oh, you should see our daycare bill. If you want to have a small heart attack every week, just show you the
Yeah.
withholding there.
I mean, thinking about what I make and what you make, that's what we bring home and we pretty much go through it every month.
Yeah.
We bring home more than that and go through it,
I
actually.
think it's probably because we're quite reckless with our money.
I don't disagree.
You know what? I don't think it's being reckless when the whole country kind of feels that way. I read an article not that long ago. I think it was on CNBC. It said how, families or individuals or households that are making more than $100,000 a year, I think about half of them or a third of them were living paycheck to paycheck. So, I mean, that's a sobering statistic.
But I mean, that's like we're still putting in retirement. We're still
Sure.
like I don't know.
No. Okay. So well, let's just run some quick numbers. So say if I was going to do this. So 7,000 a month. The rule of 4% or 5% says that basically if you have a dollar or if you have $100, you can think of it as having $4 or $5 a year for the rest of your life. So typically, just to be conservative, we do like a 4%.
Hmm.
So 7,000 a month is four. Okay. So that comes out to $2.1 million, right? So that would
That's not as
be,
high as I thought it would be.
what's that?
That's not as high as I thought it would be.
What? So like we can just work back from it. Like say here, let me see if I can actually, okay. So I'm just pulling up my calculator here. I know you can't see it, but bear with me. So it's like, say if I put in $2.1 million and I do it times 0.04. So that gives me $84,000. Now, if I divide that by 12, that comes out to $7,000, right? And we said this is pre-tax. So as long as we have 7,000 coming in or 84,000 a year, it's the same as wanting or needing 2.1 million a year for the rest of your, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, so then the question becomes like, how do we close that gap?
So that's living off the interest, isn't it?
Yeah, only off the interest. I mean, so like theoretically, you could have sequence, like, what they call sequence of event risk, where early in retirement, you could have a lot of bad years followed by a lot of good years, and then it averages out to still the same amount of money, but that could really hit you in a bad way. But the odds are like if you withdraw 4% of your final portfolio, you should be fine, like most of the time. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And this is like trying to put you in the best possible spot because we're going to have other incomes. We're going to have pension, we're going to have social security, right? You don't spend as much in retirement. So this is like we're kind of looking at the best possible world. And
Right.
if you don't need as much, then you only instead of taking 4%, you only take 2%, which means then, you really like don't really run out of money. And so then you can leave that $2, $3 million nest egg to your kids. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. So then the question becomes like, we know we're probably not going to need that whole $2.1 million, but let's just assume that we are, and then the question becomes like, well, how far away are you from retirement? So like at what age would you guys like to retire?
I figured that I have 27 more years.
You said 27
Um,
more?
yeah, that's not
26.
cool.
Okay.
That puts me pretty old. I don't know if I want to retire that late. Maybe
Okay.
22 more.
I
Okay.
think
So,
retiring at 60.
okay. Well, here, what we can do is I'll see if let me see. Bear
The
with
way
me
that
here.
I got my number is knowing that I just joined Pennsylvania 2 and 3 years ago, let's say.
Okay.
And typical retirement's 27 years. Or I mean 30 years. So
Okay.
30 minus the three that I've been would be 27.
I
But
see.
27 years from now, that puts me at
67 years.
68 years old.
So you said 68.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if you don't want to wait that long, maybe we can just say, okay, you'd like to have the 2.1 million by age 60 or something like that. Would that be a better
Yeah.
scenario?
I mean, that I'm gonna want to still go until I can retire from there, which I guess is 25 years. So another 22
Okay.
would put me at what 63. That's not as bad, I guess. But
Okay.
62 is a normal retirement age. I could do 63.
Okay. So you're saying, so then we have, for the both of you put together, we have about 22 years to get you to that $2.1 million, right? Nest egg. And we want to do that without taking on too much risk. So like if you're 100% in the market, over time, so like the longer the time horizon, the less risky the stock market is. But anything can happen over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So we want something that's a little bit more predictable, right? And I think that's why we had talked about maybe possibly having real estate as a like a diversifying into that, right? And you guys told me you even looked at a few properties. Is that right?
The latest one we looked at was in Pigeon Forge.
Okay.
Um,
Where
and
is that?
it's
Where?
in Tennessee, in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee.
Oh, that's nice. You guys go there a lot every year. So,
We do. And it's a really nice market. Like we started thinking about the short-term rental market versus a
okay.
long-term rental market. I just think
Okay.
that um I think we'd have less chance of failing at a short-term rental market like that. And the
Yeah.
thing about Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge is that they really have a season of about 10 months.
Oh,
Like
okay.
there's only 2 months that which are like January. Well, I guess let's say 9 months. January, February are not amazing, and then also August because everyone goes back to school. So
Okay.
like midway through August to midway through September is not
Got you.
amazing either.
Is
But
that the one?
otherwise,
Is that the one that we had talked about? And I think you had said that it would pretty much pay for itself, but then we were short on the down payment.
it was really yeah like so the mortgage payment would have been about 31,000 a year.
Okay.
And the income that they said that we would get from it, the management company said that we would get from it was anywhere from 30 to 40.
Okay.
So it
Oh,
was barely paying it off, but it was paying it off in like I was kind of happy with that for our first one,
Sure.
um, because then we didn't have much chance of a failure, which is what I
Got
was
you.
most scared of.
Okay.
Um, but the yeah, but it didn't like blow the socks off, you know. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it was doubling it or anything of that sort.
Sure. Sure. So I guess let me see if I can. This would be a first for me. Sharing screen on Zoom. So if I can figure this out, I'd like to share something with you guys. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's tiny.
Yeah. We're gonna have to get really close because it's on
Okay. I'll zoom in. What do you
yeah,
see?
not good.
Do you see like an Excel sheet?
Yeah, I see the green and yellow.
Okay, all right, great. So that's what I wanted to show you. So I'll send this to you so you can play around with it, but let me know if you're able to see it now because it's still pretty
Yeah, it's
small.
good. No, it's good. I can see it.
Okay, so this is the template that I give to all my clients. Pretty much it's green questions, so okay to change, orange is answers, that's the output we want, so do not change, right? So we can set our target age. So like let's just say I know we're pretty close in age, so we'll just say you're like my age. So we'll say you're close to
Mm.
44 and you said you wanted to retire what, 62, 63?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put 63 in here. That means we have 19 years left to retirement. Now this is here. I'm going to zoom out just once so you can kind of get a big picture overview of this. So this is what I call like my crystal ball. It's my simulator tab. It lets you calculate everything from number of years, rate of return required, how much money you need to start with, how much you need to put away. So you can kind of, so basically think of it like, solving for retirements, like basically baking a cake or making a recipe with five ingredients. If you have any four, you can solve for the fifth one. So that's what we're doing here. We're isolating four and then we're asking for the fifth one. So that's what I say. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because that's why it's so important. So we said, okay, 63, that's when we want to retire. And then we'll just say, okay, this is what we need. What we want is we said we needed 84,000 a year. That was after tax and everything. So let's see. Here's what we're gonna do. Okay. So we have 63 years left. Now, this is the first way I like to go about it is I say, okay, realistically speaking, and you can look at it when you see all these other tabs, you'll be able to see that the kind of rate of return that we earn on our investments. So typically for real estate, I'd say 20 to 30% is reasonable. So let's just say if we do 25%, and then, you know, honest assumption might be like, okay, we can put 50,000 today, maybe another 10,000 every year or not. We'll keep that small. Let's just say 5,000. Okay. So in 19 years, if we do that, we're actually exceeding that. The future value will be 5 million, but then we need to take into account the break even inflation rate, which is right now it's hovering around 2.5. It might go up. That's a good estimate. So this is what we'll get. So in today's dollars, we'll have about $3.1 million portfolio. And then remember we said 4% rule of 5%. If you have $100, it's the same as having $4 or $5 for the rest of your life, right?
Mhm.
And then that will give us an income of 156,000, which is double what you're looking for. Now, another way to look at this is if you scroll down here further and you do it another way, you say, okay, if I'm earning, say, like probably 35% is like the upper limit, you know, and say, okay, I put 100,000 in today and another 10,000, every year. And I want $10 million dollars in retirement so I can have a $500,000 income. How soon can I get there with real estate? And the answer would be 12 years. You could get there at age 56. Now you could even say, okay, well, I don't need that much. I just
All
want
right, so
like,
Grang,
yeah.
what is the tell me tell me what the 100,000 and 10,000 is. Because
So,
you're saying like I put in 100,000 today and
yep. So the PV is short for present value. The PMT is short for payment. So basically, we're saying, what are you going to start with today? How much you'll put away every year? Does that
Like
make sense?
into another investment or
Just
like
your real estate fund. So you could say, okay, we can set you up with an LLC, like a real estate investment vehicle,
hmm
right? And for, I mean, for a little bit extra credit, we can even do something like a SEDIRA, a self-directed IRA, where, then you get the liability protection too, because,
okay.
everything. So anyway, so you can say like how much you're going to put in every year. Now you can, if you say, okay, I just have so much to put away, like say I can do 50,000 today. Now I don't want to put anything else in.
So the
You
50,000 would
sound
be
like
like
me.
the
What do you
50,000 would
mean?
be
The
like what we have
coughing.
in the retirement account now, or
Yeah.
So see, like, okay, so we just do 50,000. We don't put in anything else, but we're still shooting for a $10 million portfolio. We're going to be a little bit aggressive with leverage because, we can in real estate. So if all goes well, we can be there at age 58. And then you can say, okay, well, I don't need that much. I just want like a third of that or a quarter of that. So you can do that. If I only want a quarter of a $2.5 million portfolio, and I can get there in 10 years at age 54. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so uh, is that buying $10,000, like having a $10,000 down payment per year to purchase another property or I
something, yeah. So like this is what so I have other rental properties and businesses that I own in partnerships. Now I'm not going to share like my partner's information, but I do. This is for that you know, it's like a sample of what I have in my own name personally. And so this template, like here, I'll zoom in. Now, this is why I would advise you against the rental property in Tennessee, only because of this. This is the most important number, the IRR. It assumes that, if you have more projects lined up, how quickly you can double your money. So, a high IRR means you could pretty much double your money quickly. So that's what we want to shoot for. So you could do something like this. Now, this was my very first one. It was an FHA, 3.5% down. This next one here was a traditional 10% down. This one was Jess's FHA, 3.5% down. And then this one was, we're actually seeing a lot of results here with this. We're actually recommending this to our clients. So this is pre-foreclosure properties. And so basically, this one, what we did is we bought 10 acres of land with a mobile home on it. And the judgment was about $58,000. Now, I knew 10 acres with like a mobile home on it's worth at least 150, if not 200. So we went ahead and bought it. And, we kind of got to keep a family out of homelessness. And they're giving us 7,200 a year in rent, 12%. So, like even if I just hold this for 5 years or 3 years or 4 years, right? Like, see if I hold this for 3 years, like here, can you see this?
hmm
Okay. See, my IRR is 52%, which means I'm doubling my money every 1.7 years. Do you see that?
Okay.
Yeah. So even like say if I do nothing else, right? Like say, okay, I'll hold this for 10 years. We'll just say that. Count 10. Okay. So that equals plus, and say by that time it's worth about 250. You see my IRR is still 23%, which means I'm doubling my money every 3.3 years. So this is where, like that old saying that you make your money when you buy, you just realize it when you sell. So this is where we can help. Like if you're interested, it's like helping you find pre-foreclosure properties. We actually have a pretty good team now, an attorney, a realtor, a CPA, research interns doing all that stuff. And you don't need a lot. Like, so I like to joke that, 5, 10 properties is all you need because keep in mind, if you buy something today, even assuming here, are you able to see the calculator on my screen?
What's mainly focused is oh yep, now I see it.
Okay. So let's say, let's say, let's say Inflation's going to run 2.5%. Real estate might appreciate another 2, 3% on top of that. We'll just say two to be generous. So this is what we're looking at. And you're still like 22 years away, right, from retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you buy today is going to be worth, do you see that number? 2.63.
Yeah.
So it's going to be worth almost triple what you buy today. Now, the thing is, it's magical because A, in 20, 30 years, it's almost paid off. So, you own an asset free and clear. The whole time, somebody else has paid your mortgage for you, right? So if you recall, like I think we talked about once how real estate, the returns come from four sources. You have your mortgage pay down, your property appreciation itself, the cash on cash return, and then your tax benefit. So that's where the high number comes from. And then, if you look at this template calculates it all for you. You know what I mean? So like you can run through your expenses, taxes, all that. So that's what this return, this IRR is calculated using the total return. So, do you know what I mean? So like say if we just set a very doable, very leisurely pace of, okay, we get you into one property a year, maybe one every 2 years. So in 22 years, you have 11 to 22 properties, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
they're all not going to be paid off. But say like, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. Say they're not all paid off, but like half of them are paid off. So, I mean, here's another, I'll pull up a calculator again. Let's say we just buy something like value. We're not even shooting for high-end property. So let's say you buy something worth like 300,000 today. We said it's going to be worth 2.6 something in 20 years, 22 years. So
Mm-hmm.
each property you own is going to be worth about $800,000 when it's paid off, right? And we said we can just help you get one to two every year or two. So even on the low end, if you do one every other year, which I mean, like if I ask you, what's the pace that you'd feel comfortable with? Like how many properties would you want to buy every few years? Like would
Well,
one a
I think
year?
it's getting easier, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, from personal experience, like my first one was the hardest, my last one was the easiest.
Yeah. See, that's like I'd like to say that I'd like to buy one a year, two a year, but
What
I
if what if we
we haven't
say,
been able to figure out how to buy our first one yet.
well, that's where like, I guess you need some hand holding, and that's where I would come in, if
Yeah,
you're interested. But so could we get you to like say one every other year? Would that be
sure,
comfortable? Okay, so
sure.
like say so we're 22 years away. So we're gonna do one every other year. So we're at 11. When it's all paid off, it's gonna be worth that much. But we know it's not gonna be fully paid off in 11 years. Like here, when you see this template, you'll be able to see like each template will calculate its own amortization schedule. Are you able to see this chart?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll give you something like that. It'll give you an idea of when it'll be paid off. But like, let's just say, I don't know, um, a third, a half of it's like paid off. So right, so we'll be conservative. We'll say a third is paid off. So you're still going to have like about $3 million worth of equity alone. Remember? And then we said having $100 is the same as having $4 or $5 a year for life,
Hmm.
right? So if we do that times four, there's your yearly income to feel comfortable, right? And this is not counting your social security, your pension, any of that. And so
I guess
then,
that would be selling them off, wouldn't it?
what do you mean?
That would be selling the properties to access that money.
No, no, if they're paid off, you can just live off the rental income.
Okay.
Or, if you have a portfolio of 11 and you have enough equity to pay off two or three, then yeah, sure, sell the eight or nine and then have two or three that are your best of the best properties be like free and clear.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with the Tennessee properties.
Because like what you're saying with the with what we want to leave our kids, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to leave the kids a few properties.
Well, and so this is where multi-generational planning comes in, and this is where we can help you too. Like it's a lot more. impactful if the whole family behaves as one cohesive, integrated unit, just moves as one unit. So if we bring the kids in to the planning and say, hey, like, look, in 22 years, these properties are going to be about, half paid off. Could we get you trained on managing maybe some small repairs or just administrating the property so then they can pass to your kids pretty much tax free? And there's things we have to do, but you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So,
Like put it in a trust.
yeah, yeah, there's an like, and we can sit down with our attorney and talk more about that. So, here, I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute so you can see me. Okay. Yep. So that's pretty much the long and short of it as far as like the big picture overview goes.
So
Now,
when you were saying about the one in Tennessee that it doesn't match quite what your things were looking at, because the rate of return isn't high enough.
well, I would want to like see with everything, you got to look at the loan level detail, like the investment level detail. I would have to like, if we were working together, like if you were a client, then that's what I would do is you would just send me the numbers, I would crunch them for you, and then we would kind of sit down and I'd give you my opinion. I mean, what you do is up to you, but if the numbers didn't make sense, I would advise you against it. I would say don't do it,
Hmm.
you know?
But at that, okay, I was just thinking about it. Like I realized that that one wouldn't be generating a great deal of income for us, but then also it's breaking even, and with the appreciation of that property, then it's still going to be a $900,000 property in 20 years or whatever. And
Sure, sure, that's
I'll,
fine. But you have to look at the IRR. If it's not high enough, then, I mean, everything, right? It's Econ 101. It's like
Mhm.
compared to what, at what cost, what hard evidence do you have? You have to look at your deployable capital as a scarce resource. You could sure like it feels good to own something in Tennessee that you go every year, but you're also like 7 hours away. Somebody else is running it for you. They can promise you, the whole 9 yards before you sign on the dotted line, but afterwards, your guess is as good as mine. My number one concern for you would be keep the IRR high enough so that we can get you to that three, four, five, $10 million portfolio, and then you can just buy something for cash. Like, if you have a $10 million portfolio in 22 years, like who cares if it's going to be worth 900,000 in Tennessee? You could just write a check and just buy it outright,
Okay.
right? Remember the old
Yeah.
line, if it flies, floats, or fornicates, you're better off renting than buying.
I'm not familiar with that one, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, the other one other thing I wanted to show you real quick here. I'll share my screen again just for a minute. Here, are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the S&P 500 returns. I'll zoom in so you can see. Since 1928, 1950, 1980, 2000, 2012, and last 10 years. The reason I've done this is because everything we know about finance tells us that returns are event driven. So something will happen and then, something will happen. So if you look at it over the really long term, you get about 8 to 10%. The standard deviation is still high, and then we get the Sharpe ratio. So this is what a lot of people who are, if they're just solely invested in the stock market, what they miss is this thing. Like this is like kind of what I call my poor man's Monte Carlo simulator. It tells you the spread, basically how good things can be, how bad things can be. Now, I did this based on my own family history because, my grandpa had four boys. So it's like brother one, brother two, three, and four. And so we can see that we're promised on average about 10%, but we never really get that, right? You can see that it's almost like splitting the timeline into four different universes to see what can happen. And so you'll see here, if you hit F9 multiple times, you'll see the difference. So you'll see here, I just hit F9. And what happened? We started out with $100,000. We're going to put 15,000 every year for 35 years. And so we're expected to get 8.4 million dollars. But that doesn't happen. Somebody who's lucky, who gets the, positive side of sequence of event ends up with 18, 19 million. And somebody who's unlucky, who gets the few bad draws, ends up with 1.8, about $2 million. So that's actually what can happen. And this is why, again, and then we'll just go here real quick. So this is America's wealth in a nutshell. This are US asset markets. You'll see that equities, this is stock market's about $64 trillion valuation. Residential real estate is $60 trillion. So if you're only in the stock market, you're kind of not harnessing the wisdom of the crowds. What I'd say is at least you should be 50-50. You're more aligned with what the actual allocation of the market at large is, just some food for
Uh-huh.
thought. So yeah. And the reason what happens is when you diversify with real estate, you actually get a little bit more price stability just because, like you can control things like how nice you can make your property. Like you were telling me earlier, you fixed your own heater today. Hey, if you do
Mhm.
that, that's great. Especially with rental properties, like the three biggest expenses are vacancies, fixing things, and then just general like, property management. So like if you're good at all three, right? And we can show you little tips and tricks to like find the best tenants. That's where we've had the greatest success. So that takes care of the vacancy. We can show you how to manage your own properties. We can do it for you if you want. So that takes care of the second pillar. And the third one, like you're actually pretty handy, a lot more handy than I am. So, and then that should make your income stream and therefore returns in real estate a lot more predictable. So here, I'm just going to stop sharing now. So, okay.
I guess it's the fear of having those vacancies
Yeah.
um, is my problem at this point. Um, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so sooner or later you're gonna have to like face that fear. There's no getting around it. We can
we
do
do.
everything we can to minimize and mitigate those risks, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to face that fear.
That I guess that's what the comforting thing about that one. I'll just go back to the one in Tennessee. Like
Yeah.
I was sold um, simply because, and I know it's like oh that vacation property, but it just makes sense with 9 to 10 months of
Yeah.
rental income, um, like 9 to 10 strong months of rental income, and
Yeah.
then just knowing that after paying the 20% to that management company, that
Yeah.
I'd be at least breaking even. That that kind of like I was like, okay. And then the appreciation of the house, that's good. But when
Yeah.
I look at my local Waynesboro and the number of people that struggle and like to pay the rent and the whole
Yeah.
idea that they can go 3 months without paying rent or whatever the law is now. I haven't looked at it that well, but 3 months without paying rent before I can evict them. Well,
But so
that's
like
3 months that I have to figure out how to
yeah.
pay that mortgage.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the risk you take, but again, we have a really good attorney. We have in all our leases, we put in a clause that we don't have to give the quit notice or cure notice or whatever that is. So we can help you design the lease in a way that's most advantageous to you. So,
Okay.
you
So
know,
those are all things that you're
yeah.
so
I mean,
you
you have to like, right, that old saying, justice is blind. So you have to just weigh the evidence. Like I would say the scary part is, okay, sure, like vacancies, dealing with all this, but then, it's like what's going to happen in 22 years if you don't do anything now, if you just keep putting it off.
uh, I'm I think we're both ready to do something because we see what's going to happen. We haven't done our taxes yet this year, but
Okay.
I like I was pretty gung ho about having one before January 1st so we could have it too for our taxes. But
Yeah.
the thing I'm still wrestling with, and hopefully your expertise on this would help out, is with the LLC. Like I know that we always get told put it into an LLC, but then with the
Hmm.
LLC, the I lose the personal tax advantages, don't I?
Not necessarily. So like this, that would be like a lot more of a detailed conversation. I know we're coming
Mhm.
up on the end of our consultation here, so but we could definitely sit down and map everything out. The only advantage I can think of is that personally you'd just get a 30 year instead of a 20 year because commercial is 20 years for the mortgage. So your payments are a little bit higher, but then again, you have more equity in the house, you know?
Okay, I didn't realize that. So
Yeah.
if you put in an LLC, you have to have it's a 20-year payment instead of a 30-year payment.
I think so for the most part. Like, don't quote me on it, but I can research it and get back to you. Plus,
Okay.
like, we have a lot of good mortgage brokers. So, we can put you in touch with those guys too. Sometimes they can work. I mean, and it depends too. Like, if you find a willing seller, you can just ask them to, like, hold a note. So it's
Okay.
like 5 years, you improve the performance, and then you just refi and pull the money out.
Okay.
Yeah, but the bigger question is like, I think we've been talking for what, like almost a few years now about you guys wanting to do this.
Hmm.
So, like, the question is then, like, what happens if you just put off a few more years?
No, you're right. We we're we need to do it.
Okay.
But we need to figure out where we're coming up with a down payment.
Yeah, we need to
Okay.
figure out how to come up with the down payment because yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, but okay. So that's like, that old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. So we can figure out, like, where would you get it from? Just the equity in your house or your, like,
Well,
401k or?
that's what we had discussed that. We had discussed the opportunity whenever we had the one in Tennessee
I talked to the
about
lady at Edward Jones.
yeah, about taking out the money that we have in Edward Jones, or we have probably $120,000 of equity in our house at this point that
Okay.
we could take it out. But then I was thinking about it, like, isn't the mortgage company going to be suspicious if I just have a second mortgage of 100,000 on this house and that's where the money came from to put down? It's going to show that I don't have the ability to make those payments or anything.
Well, then, you don't pull the whole thing out, like I said, and then that's why we can work with people who are not necessarily listing with a realtor. We can just like get you a list of, let's just say, old people who have their homes paid off and they might be willing to sell,
Hmm.
you know? There's websites you can go to like PropStream, PropWire, and you can just run lists of, let's just say, high equity, older homeowners, stuff like that, and you can just like start calling them. So there's creative ways to do it.
Okay. That's how you did that 10-year or 10 acre, isn't it?
Yeah, so like I knew if I let that go to auction, I was gonna get clobbered because everyone and their brother would just outbid each other. So we just went directly to the property owner. And then, this is where our expertise would come in because we have a whole team. We have a realtor, an attorney, a CPA, interns doing research all day long, an assistant that just, and so we have a whole system for keeping in touch with them. And then it's all about how you talk to people, like how you structure the offer. And so,
Jessica, we need to plug this in. You got 5%.
It's on the
okay.
island.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
Well, I mean, we're coming up at the end of this anyway. We can schedule another one if you guys want, but are you okay if we just kind of pause in a few minutes?
it's on under my hoodie. Justin, that's the hoodie.
Answer him.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that makes me nervous about using the equity in the house is having that extra payment for that, and then also having the mortgage for the rental property,
Sure.
not being as good of an investment. Um, there's actually a triplex here in Wayne. Here, hold this. There's a triplex here in Waynesboro, but it needs repairs, and like part of me is like, do you go in and offer less for that and then you just hurry up and do the repairs, or do you spend more and get something that's ready to ready to go? And I
What
don't know.
you never ever want to overpay. So like the rule of thumb is 2/3 of ARV or after repair value. So you just kind of figure out, hey, fully fixed up, what would the house be worth? And then you just go and say like, hey, look, the rule of thumb is no matter who comes in and buys this from you, they're going to give you 65 cents on the dollar. So could we work some kind of a deal out? And then like I said, it's all in how you approach people, kind of offer you make, so we can help you make the offer too if need be. So
Okay.
yeah, like I said, I mean, even to Jess's point about like wondering, okay, if I pull out the equity, then I have to make the equity payment, and then I have like the new mortgage. So it gets one scary versus the other scary. Like which scary is a tougher pill to swallow. Like you do it or you just put it off for another year and then like we're talking about this in another 2, 3 years, and instead of 22 years to retirement, you only have 15 or 16 or 17 years.
I kind of have my mind made up that in 2025 we have to have the first one.
Okay. But typically it works best if everybody's on board. So that's why I was saying, how does Jess feel about that?
No, I would like to have it done this, like I was hoping that we would have it done before it turned 2025. So I
Okay.
definitely,
Yeah.
I when we do our taxes next year, I want a property that we're trying to figure out how to claim on our taxes.
Got you. And just out of curiosity, like, do you have somebody who prepares your taxes or do you do them yourself?
We did have somebody, but we procrastinated too much to um have him do it this year. So
Okay.
that was on
Gotcha.
us, but we do have a guy down here that does our taxes.
Okay. Just for my personal curiosity, what do you pay him? What does he charge you?
I think it was like $80 or something
Yeah,
like that.
75, $80. Like it costs the same to go to him as it does to do TurboTax, which is why we would go to him because we could talk stuff
Yeah,
through with.
sure, sure. No, I understand. So,
Yeah, I thought it was pretty reasonable. I know when you go to like H&R Block, people are paying like $400 for some
yeah,
regular easy taxes to do. I
yeah,
mean, ours are not difficult at this point. I would imagine when we start the LLC and everything
yeah,
and whatever, it's going to get a lot more complicated and a lot more expensive to do it. But just for
sure.
what we do with our investments and our normal W-2s and jobs, yeah, I mean, I think the first year was $65, and I mean, it might have went up by $10. It might be 75 now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. We were going to go to him. The only reason that we didn't was again, we just procrastinated too long and he's too busy.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha. Okay. No worries. Okay. So let's figure out a game plan and then, we'll kind of go from there.
sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, then I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. See you later.
Talk to you
All right.
later.
See ya. Take care. Bye.